All right, guys, here's my 1968 Ford 5000, and here's the pretty darn rugged bumper slash brush guard that I made for the thing. So I mow a lot of overgrown fields, and I'm constantly pushing down alders, saplings, sumac, pine trees. I'm constantly mowing down a bunch of stuff like that, and I haven't really used this tractor a lot, so I'm just getting ready to start using this tractor. This is going to replace my other tractor that I use. So I'm going to take you guys along for the journey of me building this brush guard and what it took. If you're interested, stick around and watch a long video about that. And it is a long video, sorry about that in advance. The front end of these tractors takes quite a bit of abuse. I mean, if you're pushing over alders and whatnot, these poor tractors' grills can really take a beating. And this one's fairly nice. I'd like to preserve it. So I'm going to make some sort of brush guard for the front of this thing so that I'm not worried about the tractor while I'm mowing. Just one less thing to worry about. So I'm going to get started with that, and I'll take you guys along for the process. I don't know if it's going to be this video or another video, but I'm also going to make a shield to go under the exhaust so that doesn't get all stove up. So I'm going to make some reinforcements for this thing. But I'm just going to see what I have for steel, see what I have for time, and also just going to see essentially how it looks on the tractor, because looks and functionality go hand in hand. So let's get at it. Got this nice big chunk of 1/2-inch plate kicking around. I'm going to cut that in half, and that's going to be the beginning of my bumper. Alright, got the holes punked through with that torch. The reason I use the torch is because I don't have a 3/4 inch or bigger drill set, and the bolts that are going to be holding these in are 3/4 inch, so now the torch will do good in this situation. Alright, so I got these two pieces bolted on the front of the tractor. I'm just kind of putting them on there and seeing what it looks like. I think I got a piece of channel iron I might bolt across the front of this, or weld. Haven't quite decided yet. So I've gone ahead and I've C-clamped a big piece of angle iron underneath. Now I'm going to weld this piece of channel iron secure, and I've saved myself enough gap there so for the 70-18, so it can actually do a nice job filling that in. Let's get burning that piece in. So don't roast me too bad, guys, but this is downhill 70-18. I figured I'd give it a shot and challenge myself a little bit. I don't think it's going anywhere. It's not super pretty, but you know what? I think it's gonna hold. So this is what I'm working with here, an old Lincoln Tombstone, 105 amps I'm welding with that AC 70-18. The MIG welder just isn't big enough for this situation. Just wouldn't have enough amperage, and I'd have to preheat the metal to get decent penetration. I don't really want to do that, so this is what I've got to deal with. So I clamped some pieces of strapping to kind of simulate about what I wanted. And I like the look of this, but I absolutely hate the look of the square corners right here. I do not like that. It just looks like it's an afterthought. It looks like someone just cheesed it together. So what I ended up doing was I have this piece of 1/2 by 3. I ended up actually taking the torch, heating that up enough to bend it. So it's gonna have nice radiused corners. That took quite a while. I didn't get that process on video, but that's what's gonna be the new piece. I think that'll look pretty darn sharp. I'm glad, it took probably 20 minutes extra per each bend. And also it used up quite a bit of oxygen and acetylene just to heat that. So, I mean, definitely not the easy way out, but I'm thinking that's gonna pay off in the long run. That'll look nice. All right, we got our C-clamps holding on our new top piece for the brush guard. And there you can see the corners. I think they turned out awesome. I'm not blowing my own horn or anything, but they took a long time to do, those corners, and I'm glad they turn out nice. So this is what I'm kind of basing this off so far. This is going to be the main frame. I'm going to have probably 1, maybe 2 cross members that go through there. And I'm going to put a bolt in the center of this. The intention is maybe I can flip this down so that I can clean the grill a little easier. And I'm going to probably put a brace from here, maybe to the rear bolt. I'm not sure yet. We'll just kind of see how it goes from here. So let's keep on rolling. So I ended up raising this up just a little bit, so that's higher than the lip of the hood. Got the holes drilled in here. Well, cut in here with a torch. And I dare say that is starting to come together pretty nicely. I think that's going to be a pretty nice look for the tractor. And now all I've got to do is make some sort of brace to brace this thing so whenever something hits it, it won't push it into the grill. Beautiful cuts. Alright, so I'm kind of gearing towards having the 2 vertical pieces and 1 solid crossbar, and then having another crossbar down here. I'm going to tack that together with a MIG welder just to kind of see what it looks like, and then go from there. It's hard to kind of see the shape of it with the clamps on there, but I think it'll look cool. And I'm just going to be tacking these pieces with this MIG welder. This is a nice little Lincoln Electric 135. This doesn't really quite have the amperage to burn in some of that heavier metal like this 3/8 and 1/2 inch plate that I'm welding. So I'm just going to tack it in and get it all lined up, and then after I get it all tacked, I'll burn it in with a 7018. I'm going to move these and try to get these adjusted so that they look good. It's kind of tricky to judge, but well. looks pretty nice. I'm happy with that. In case you guys haven't noticed, I'm using old rusty steel. I got a good deal on a lot of this stuff, and it doesn't make sense to go buy new stuff, but you can grind this up and you can make it clean, and this will weld just as good as any brand new steel out there. So old steel, I don't mind recycling it and using that stuff up again, because that can have a second life. That material has been around for a long time. Some of that metal has probably been around since the 50s. So it's kind of cool to reuse some of the older stuff and give it a new wind on life. Alright, so this thing is starting to look pretty good. I like the way it's starting to shape out. Not quite sure what I'm going to do up here yet. I might add more verticals, but I don't know what I'm going to do down here. It looks kind of empty. Maybe not. Maybe that's just me. But gotta get it rest of the way together, and then I'll take a look at it and see what I think. So this is kind of a as-we-go type situation. I don't really have any plans for this. It's just kind of what I have for material and what fits. So I think it's coming together all right. Check this out. This is a big chunk of steel that I got from one of the local recycling guys that I use. I don't know what this was for. Someone made a lot of effort to make that thing round. Whatever that was, I don't know. But this thing is a full 5/8 of an inch thick. Like, this thing is a nice big chunk of steel. So, and it's old. I'll be willing to bet this is, I don't know, some piece of farm equipment or something, but I think it's pretty cool. But we're gonna cut it up anyway, so. Full 5/8. That is some thick stuff. I actually quite like the look of that brace right there. I didn't know how I was going to feel about it, but before I drill the upper hole, or cut the upper hole, I was going to just kind of look at it and see what I like. That thing looks pretty darn nice. And another thing, I mean, I designed this thing in my mind anyway to be imp-proof. I wanted this thing to be super rugged, and also because I don't have any suitcase weights on this thing, I was thinking, the amount of metal that I'm using, it's going to weigh quite a bit, and that's, probably going to be about 100 pounds or better once this thing is all done. I mean, we've got 5/8 metal, 1/2 inch metal. I mean, we've got 5/16 channel iron. This is 1/2 inch. I mean, there is some serious steel on this thing, but I kind of wanted to overbuild it, and I think we're going to get there. After a bit of grinding, this is what I'm left with. It's not the best holes in the world. I mean, the torch does a good job. The bolts go through fine. but not as clean as if you drilled them. So I've got that done. I've just got to do one more, so we'll go ahead and get that knocked out. Alright, got that shell of the grill all welded, and I feel like there's something missing still. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 2 more verticals to go down in this middle brace area. I think it might look a little bit like an old Oliver tractor, so hopefully it doesn't look too much like one, because it might be a little funky. But, oh, we'll see how it looks. I was down at Home Depot and I stumbled across these things. So I'm going to weld these, I think, right on there, in case I get this thing stuck. It'll have a lot of strength right here in between these 2 bolts. Whereas if I put it out here, it could potentially bend this plate. So I think that'll look nice. Nice little feature, little D-rings. Just tack welded that. I'm gonna take this piece off, finish welding and cleaning it up. I think this thing's gonna be ready for paint. It's like kind of like a window for a house. So I think that'll be a good spot for those D-rings. You know, if you're pulling, like say this tractor gets stuck and you're pulling this way, that's gonna have a lot of strength between those 2 bolts. Believe it or not, I kind of figured, whenever I was building this, to make this bend a little bit if it does hit something pretty darn heavy or hard, like a stump or whatever it might be. Obviously you'll be able to see something, but you never know what you might get into when you're out mowing. So I was gonna put a piece of plate right there and make some braces coming off to the sides, but I was thinking that's gonna be plenty rugged. You know, if you hit something that's gonna bend this, chances are you might break the front end. And you know, this should give before the front end gives, so hopefully it goes to plan if I ever do hit anything. Alright, I got those burned on there. Not the best welds on planet Earth, but 120 amps of 7018 and a 1/2 inch metal. I don't believe those are going anywhere, so they'll be just fine. All of the grinding is finally done. I had to get out the big 7-inch grinder. That thing takes a lot of steel off quick. But I think that looks pretty nice. Next step up is start working on the other piece that belongs on the front of the tractor. Gotta get that cleaned up, then we're almost ready for paint. Got all these parts ground up, cleaned up best I can. Wire brushed them. I even went as far to use a nice sandpaper flap wheel. So these things are gonna look pretty nice, I think, when they're all painted up. So right now, just using some Prep-All. It's basically a wax and grease remover. Trying to get all the crap off of there. As you can see, it definitely does need to be cleaned before you go ahead and spray it, because this paint is not going to stick very good to that nasty rusty metal. So the paint I'm choosing to go with is this Tisco enamel. This is a pretty darn good paint. Ford Empire Blue, part number. I use this on the rest of the tractor. It matches pretty darn good. I'll show you that. I'm not going to use any primer. It's Saturday, probably like 7 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't really want to run anywhere. I just want to get this thing painted. I've had good luck painting over bare metal with this stuff, so I think it's going to stick just fine. I've got 3 coats of paint on parts here, and I think I'm going to call that good. It's just going to get scratched off anyway as soon as I get using the tractor, but I just wanted to get it done, so essentially the thing looks decent for a little while anyway. And also the parts that are going to be hidden will also be good for a long time, so yeah, worth the 20 bucks in paint, whatever it is. Looks good. Just to satisfy my own curiosity, I'm gonna weigh all these parts. And I'm thinking just beforehand, it's gonna be about 80 pounds. I don't know, what do you guys think? 80 pounds is my guess. Put them on there and see. Now, first piece, it's like 38 pounds. I don't know if I can have room enough on the scale to put everything at once, but I'm gonna try. All right, I had to rearrange the scale just a little bit. Well, looks like we overshot. We're at 80 pounds right now. I've still got those 2 braces to go. Wow. That's some steel, guys. 100 pounds. I never would have guessed that. That was 20 pounds heavier than I was thinking. Well, that's a lot of weight. That's the equivalent of at least, what, 2 suitcase weights? Typically suitcase weights are, I think, 70 pounds. Well, maybe 1.5 suitcase weights or so. So anyway, that's some good front weight anyway, so that'll help out. Heavier than I was thinking. Cool. Just this piece, when I took it off the scale, it's 40 pounds. Yeah. Oh, don't be like that. We had so much fun together. Get back to you guys. Just this grill shell weighs 40 pounds. At least that's what the scale was reading just now. Yeah. Yeah. Whoo. Nice, it actually fits together. Went ahead and got all the bolts tight, and that's basically the finished product. I think that looks pretty darn good. And I tried to make this crossbar here line up with the grill. I mean, so it kind of does that to some degree. And I think it kind of fits the style of the tractor. It doesn't look like it's an afterthought, or doesn't look like it's something that was just kind of cheesed together on a weekend. So just to explain a few things as to what I was doing when I built this thing. Number one, the reason why I bolted it together instead of welding the whole thing together was because of the sheer weight of this thing. So we got 100 pounds worth of metal here. That's heavy, you know, unless you got a little shop crane or something, it'd be a major pain to take this thing off. So this way I can take off the braces, I can take off the upright, and I can, if I ever have to get in here and pull the grill shell off for whatever reason, I can still do that. Second, the reason why I didn't put anything right here is because I still need to be able to get this grill mesh out of there if I need to clean it. Now, if you guys have bush hogged any amount in your life, you'll know that that region right there, is like a magnet for grass, you know, seed, anything that you're mowing will get drawn in here because the engine fan pulls it right through. So that will get full of stuff. You have to kind of take that out to clean the radiator in behind. Third, the holes that I've got here. I've left those basically for the reason of two things. One, I'm going to have a big beam, pressure treated beam, wooden beam that goes across the front of this thing, just for kind of like a little ram, I guess, you know, to push down some of these trees that I'm mowing. And also, if I ever have a bracket for suitcase weights, I could bolt that right to this headpiece. So just a couple things as to what I was doing. I mean, I tried to make it cover the entire grill, but not stick up so it would look goofy, you know, if I had something way too big. So anyway, that was just a few things I wanted to share with you as to what I was doing when I built this thing. And also these D-rings right here, I'm glad I welded those on. I think those will be pretty darn handy. You know, if you ever got to pull someone out, or if this tractor gets stuck, someone could easily pull me from here without having to, you know, crawl underneath the tractor or get underneath the axle or anything like that. So that's a cool little touch. So we got all the paint on the places that didn't have it, and that thing is starting to look pretty darn good. I do say so myself. Now, one thing I want to note real quick, the two bolts that are holding this thing on, 3/4 inch bolts. Now, instead of going and getting like a grade 8 or a grade 5 bolt, I went down to Tractor Supply and bought the cheapest bolts. I don't even think they're a grade. They're just, you know, super cheap bolts. Now, the reason I did that is because if I ever hit anything on this grill guard that's going to cause some serious damage, I want those bolts to break. I would rather have those bolts break than this front end housing break. So that was the intention. I hope it works if I ever do hit something that hard. Hopefully I don't have to find out. Alright, so that pretty much concludes the metal portion of this bumper build. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with the way it fits the tractor. It's awfully rugged. I think it's going to be pretty good. So the only thing I have left to do to finish up this bumper is going to be to add the wood portion of this bumper. Now, a lot of you guys are probably going to be like, no, don't ruin that bumper with a big chunk of wood on the front. Well, listen, this is what I'm going to do. I'm only going to use this big chunk of wood whenever I'm out mowing heavy grass, brush, brambles, you know, alders, stuff of that nature. So the tractor's going to look like this most of the time until I need to do some heavy duty mowing. It'll be easy to take on and off. Alright guys, so what I'm going to use for lumber is this giant chunk of 6x8. I actually pulled this out of a tree whenever I moved into my house. This used to be a giant swing set for some kids, and this is only half of what it was. This used to be a 16-footer. I pulled the other half and I stuck that in the ground for a mailbox post. So I cut this thing in half whenever I moved in. I've been waiting to do something with it ever since. So this is going to be the new bumper. I think it's going to do pretty good. With lumber prices the way they are in the world right now, it seems almost like a sin to cut into this beautiful 6x8. And this is about 8 feet long. However, this has been sitting out behind my house for like the last 4 or 5 years, and I haven't really done anything with it yet. So one thing I'm going to try to do is I've got these nice eye bolts that are centered, except for that one. So I think what I'm going to do is I need 4 feet, so I'm going to cut it here and here. That way I'll have those nice 3 eye bolts just because they're there and the holes are already drilled. So let's get cutting into this nice old piece of plank, board, beam, whatever it is. just to give it a little touch of class. I think that looks nice. How about another 40 pounds to add to the front of this tractor? I think that looks pretty beefy. I think that adds a lot to the tractor, and also it adds a lot to the underside of this brush guard. From where this metal ends down here, it's another, good bit of material sticking down. I left these eye bolts here. I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but they could be something in the future. They could lash something there or whatever. And also, if I turn the wheel all the way, and if that suspension is up in that side all the way, it won't hit. So I shouldn't have any problems with clearance. And that's going to add a lot to that brush guard, especially for those headlights, because they're kind of out in the open. Voila, it's all done. So I've got roughly 12 hours worth of pretty hard work in making this grill guard. I think it'll be worth it though. I think that's wicked functional. And I think that's going to add a good bit of weight to the front of the tractor. So check this out. This is a spoiler alert for an upcoming video. I made an exhaust shield as well. So whenever I'm out there mowing, my exhaust won't get all stove up. So check that out. I'll be dropping that video here pretty shortly. Stick around, you'll see that build. That took quite a bit of work as well. And also look forward to some videos of this thing actually mowing. I'm going to get this out in the fields here pretty soon, and I'm anxious to try it. This thing is going to be a beast, I think, compared to my old Ford 8N. So look forward to some videos of this thing pushing down some serious stuff.